Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our episode, Expressions the Podcast, Creativity and Comedy, with our very own special comedian guest, Sean.
Well, thank you.
There you go. Welcome. So what was that, Sean? You're a comedian?
I used to try to be, I guess.
So you're a skateboard master, you're a car enthusiast / comedian.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Why am I putting labels on you? I'm not going to put labels on you.
Quit labeling people.
Take these labels and shove them up your ass, Brian. This was
What? You want a label? Dusty wants a label.
I would love a label.
Treat hound.
You should see the face I'm getting here.
Well, let's talk about what we're here for today. We are here today to get into creativity in comedy. Now, this is actually Sean's idea, and I'm very stoked about it. When we first thought about this, Sean, what was your idea? What was your concept for what we're going to talk about tonight? By the way, nice new room there. By the way,
yes, thank you. This is what's going to be
my blank slate.
My new recording studio / office / masturbation heaven. So
you need a wall of guitars or something there.
I need a wall of like old 1940s pinup girls is what I need. I feel like that would be fitting for the age of the house.
Yeah, but no, it would be the 1940s pinup girls today.
Even better. I can I'll go to the nursing home. I'll start taking photos.
Standing there with their teeth on the plate instead, Yeah.
Not at all where I was going in my mind. New school pinup photo portraiture. And no, we're going to the 30s and 40s women today pinned up on Sean's wall.
So what?
Oh, this is going to be a funny show. Okay,
I get real fucked up. Anyways,
go ahead, Sean.
Where this came from is, as Brian said at the top of the show there, I did stand up for a minute. Mark is dying. I love it.
I love this.
Are you laughing because I told you I was going to take pictures of old ladies?
No.
That's right.
Oh.
I'm laughing because that's where it went.
That's where it went, just naturally.
Oh, it's awesome. I just love it.
God damn.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Anyways, I did stand-up comedy for a brief stint of my whatever's left of my life on this planet. I did a couple of backyard shows, one of which was the first time I think I ever did stand-up. And actually, John put it on, believe it or not, in his folks' backyard, which is really funny. So I was just dealing with a bunch of my friends heckling me, and comedy is not easy. It's not easy. It's fun and it's scary, but it's not easy in the slightest. So I still have all my jokes and shit in my notes on my phone just in case I ever get bored and somebody asks me like, hey, you used to do stand up? I'm like, yeah, look at my material.
But it is extremely creative. Like you're completely exposed. You're in front of who knows how many people, whether it's friends or people that aren't your friends or, whatever. And you're just standing up there. It's probably the most nerve-wracking form of being an entertainer, aside from maybe, being a knife juggler or something. That would be nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Standing up there and just delivering your soul.
Yeah. And it sucks because I'm not very good at public speaking, which is why I do podcasts, because I know that people will listen to it after the fact. So anything I say now, I'll probably fucking forget about it anyway. So I'll just be as deplorable and disgusting as fucked up as I possibly can. And then, just let people kind of figure it out.
Well, we have a lot to talk about. Before we get into it though, I do want to say hello to Mark. Hello to you, Sean. Find out what we're up to this past little while. If anything new has gone on since we last talked, and maybe just quickly get into that. Mark, what about you?
Let me see. Well, work's been busy, so I know I missed the show because work was busy, and then something happened last week. There was
this thing
and
special day
and anniversary of something.
Congratulations! It
was 24 years that my wife has been putting up with my shit. And she I think she does. She says, "Isn't it time for you to go on the show? Or don't you have time to go?" So it was funny because I said to her, "I'm not going to go on the show tonight." She goes, "Why?" I go, well, it's our anniversary. She goes, well, you go. We'll have dinner after. And I'm like, no, and then you're like, with Chris, she's pretty transparent, right? Like, it's never a trap with her, right? It's like that. Oh, you don't need to get me a birthday gift, and everyone's like, it's a trap. No, it's not. Not with Chris, right? We're very clear and transparent. What she says, she means, right? Unless there's that sarcastic overtone, right? I'll do what you want. Then you know that then it's a trick. But
when there's the folded arms, you pretty much know it's
do what you want.
It's not a
that
good
doesn't
thing.
mean do what you want, right? So,
Right.
but no, it was good. We had a good meal. We ate way too much. Went to Man versus Meat. That was a tasty meal there. Poutine and they have a sandwich called a Thanksgiving dinner, which is like literally everything that's in a Thanksgiving dinner on a sandwich. It was delicious. Then
with cranberry sauce.
Oh, of course, cranberry sauce, stuffing, gravy, potatoes, turkey. Yeah,
it's one of the best sandwiches there is.
Yeah, it was delicious.
We should find out when the national food holiday is for turkey sandwich.
And then
that sounds fantastic.
We ordered all this food, and then I'm like, it's either all deep fried or yeah. So I said, do you have coleslaw? And he goes, yeah. I go, okay, that'll be our vegetable. So yeah, we had the coleslaw, but no, it was good. It was awesome, and I've been working on it for far too long. I think I started Easter weekend. I'm just finishing up our second spare bedroom. So Shea Flinders, we've got a second spare bedrooms. Sean and Brian, if you guys are going to make the trip to Thunder Bay, we can put both of you up at the same time, and nobody has to sleep on the floor.
Sleeping on the floor.
Yeah. Or if Aurora comes, she can have one room and you guys share the queen bed, one or the other.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm down.
I'll shave my legs for you, Sean.
Yeah, so I finally got the floor done and the trim is all back on. And
you have hair on your legs? I have to glue mine from my pubiscus onto my chin.
My pubiscus.
I see.
I was just thinking of that song all weekend. I was thinking of that song. McLean and McLean.
I will not say where I was, but I will say it was not a food establishment today. And I just paid, and I looked down, and right there on the counter, I'm like, yeah, that's a
no, that's not allowed.
It is a clean place. I'm like, how did that? It doesn't even fit the context of the building I'm in. How did that get there?
So weird.
There's a pubic hair right up.
There's probably a beard hair.
It might have been.
I would say it's a beard hair. I mean, that's
one of mine. Mine is fairly clean shaven, but
if you do say so. Anyway. Well, comedy.
My Brian. I'm starting to look more like Brian, though. I know it's just more gray than.
Dark. And yet you're so much older than me.
I like decades, even.
All right.
Excellent.
Sean, how about you, man?
Actually, before you start, you better talk about that fucking car show because, I
was literally just about to do that. I sent Brian the photos in the chat. I'm just going to ask if you got them.
I got them.
So this past Sunday was Father's Day. By the way, you guys have you have a cat and then you have a dog, or dogs, I should say. So happy Father's Day to you both.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
It's late, but here it is. Anyways, so this was a Father's Day show. I was forced to go to by a good friend of mine, Rob. He's a great dude, and I took some photos of some cool shit that I found interesting. And a lot of them were
right on. Yeah,
a lot of them were like TV and like movie cars.
Yeah.
So that was the Eclipse from Fast and Furious, the first one.
Yeah. Now, is that the actual car or is that a replica?
I think it's a replica.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's the actual one. Then there's Kit, which was really cool from Knight Rider.
Right. One of my favorite shows ever. We talked about that on our TV episode.
Mm-hmm. I actually, wait a minute, because Sean, you're younger than Brian and I. What does KIT stand for, Sean?
Fuck. I know this one too.
Oh, you have to know this.
I fucking know this. Oh, son of a bitch.
Knight Industries.
No, it's not technology, is it?
2,000.
Fuck. I'm okay, and I haven't seen that
right, Mark? Is that it?
Yeah.
Knight Industries 2000. Yeah.
And then there was the evil version, Car. That was spelt Karr.
Don't remember.
I think
car.
I remember that.
Oh, it was the Night Automated Roving Robot.
Oh,
That one guy that
Anagrams.
watches our show is going to correct me because I'm probably wrong, but I'm 99.9% sure.
If the one guy that watches our show actually knows this fun fact, then I'll be impressed.
I know.
All right,
That's
back to
funny.
the slideshow. What's this one?
That was the
Ooh,
Interceptor
yeah.
from Mad Max.
You want to get out?
That-
Stay with me.
Actually, which is really funny. A buddy of mine commented on the photo, and he actually told me that this was from Australia, and it was actually a car used on set.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
This is the Hemi Daytona from I believe Fast and Furious 6.
Okay.
I think, if my memory serves me correctly,
Starsky
and then
and Hutch.
yep,
There
the
you
Ford
go.
Torino from Starsky and
Yeah.
Hutch.
Nice.
So there's a lot of cool shit. I mean, I would have had more time to take more photos, and if I walked around a bit more. But Father's Day for me is like I just want to sit at home and pick my nose and do nothing kind of day. So
It's a rough one, I'm sure.
yeah, and being forced to come out to a car show, although I had fun, it was great. I wasn't really as talkative and whatever else. So I just I had my moment right when we got to the show, and it was on this big racetrack, which was cool. So never put my car on a racetrack except for that day. So I can say that Lucille has now been on a racetrack.
Nice.
Yeah, just not like like we weren't fucking going nowhere.
Yeah.
We're just stationary.
But that's not the car show I think Mark was asking about.
No, it wasn't. It was the one that you were prepping for that you went to.
Because he
Oh.
wasn't on last week and he didn't get to hear what you had to say about it.
That's true. Fuck. I think I talked about this. I think this would be the third time now.
Yeah.
Since
Yeah, because I
Tri-City.
missed 2 shows. So
Okay, yeah, because the one time and then the anniversary and then yeah. Okay.
So-
all right.
so
the
you know
York
what?
thing and then the
You and
anniversary.
Sean can catch up about that show another time.
All right, we'll do that.
I'll tell you about it. It'll be a good time.
You know what? I'll just watch the episode.
There
and
you
then I'll know
go.
all about the show.
2 episodes.
That's true. Because I think
Don't
we
push
did
it, man. You're-
we did the episode that airs tonight. I think
You're cutting
the
into my
week
TikTok
before.
time here.
Yeah.
TikTok time.
Sean, did you watch that video I sent you with the gremlin knocking on the guy's engine?
No, fuck. I haven't.
No, it was customer
I wanted to.
states knocking. Sounds like there's a gremlin in the engine trying to get out. And he pans across the engine. There's a big hole in the side of the block, and he goes, "Fucker got out." Oh,
Oh my god.
so many
Gremlins.
guys, so many guys blowing shit up. It's like no wonder the automotive industry is.
Ooh.
like that.
There was a guy that did a full motor swap at the show that I went to for Father's Day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for some
Right
fucking
there?
old Chevy. They pulled the motor out and they swapped it. Like you could see like where the piston, like pieces of the piston were inside like the block.
Yeah.
It was fucked, but like they did a whole motor swap. And the fucking snail they had on it was like massive.
Oh, nice.
It's huge.
Well, that's why there was pieces of piston, right? Because
Oh yeah,
how
yeah.
much
Just
boost is too much boost, right?
it's just redneck power, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but none of those compared to what I got this weekend.
Oh, that is
boy.
sweet.
See if I can get this thing to focus on
Oh, yeah.
my hot rod.
Hey Brian, tell us where you found that.
Yeah, where did you find that, Brian? And
Okay,
did
before I
wash
tell
it?
you, you should
Did
know
you
that I've
wash-
cleaned it.
Okay, good. Twice?
I've washed it thoroughly before I brought it into my home.
I mean,
Yeah. So
so Brian is going to make up this big lie of where he found it, but just
I was at a
before he
motorsports
tells the
event.
lie- before he tells the lie, he was at a merge, and there was that box they've taken out of people's anuses, and that's why we're talking about washing it. I think we're a little off the rails. Anyway,
I'm done.
go for it.
No, okay. So actually, I had a great weekend. I did my first remote wrestling paid photography shoot ever. Shelly and I went to Cornwall. It was awesome. I shot for Destiny Wrestling and Seaway Valley Wrestling, and they had an amazing event. I met a lot of people I hadn't met before. They put us up at this really fancy hotel, so I felt very safe looking underneath the bed on the way out, and that's where I found this fun little toy. In fact, it was a fancy 2-star resort, and I probably shouldn't have looked under the bed, but yeah, it's what I do.
Actually, if you Google that hotel, it's 3.5 stars. Is the actual ratings that people have given.
Okay, Google review ratings, maybe
Yeah,
so.
that's actually pretty good for one guy that had all his friends to do ratings on this one.
That's right. Yeah. Well, hey, I didn't mind it. We survived. We had a great night.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I just really appreciate being hired to go out to do that event. Hopefully my photos will be worth it and everybody will like them. And maybe they'll ask me out there again another day. But until then, I'm having a good time. And Shelly and I had a great time. And funny story, I don't know how funny it is, but true story. On the way back, it's like a 4.5 hour. We drove like 5-6 hours that day because we stopped all over the place, went through Oshawa and whatever. No radio, just me and Shelly talking, enjoying each other. Come on, it's beautiful.
That's the good.
I love
shit.
that woman. She's the best human alive, and we had a great weekend. And it was just, yeah. That's why we do it, man. That's why we do it.
Actually, you know what? That's funny because I actually shot an event too. I was invited out to shoot Disney's Camp Rock the musical.
Right, you showed photos of that to us.
I did, yeah. So I did that. That was a lot of fun. That was
cool.
A great show. Great bunch of kids put that on. So yeah.
Camp Rock sounds a lot like School of Rock. Same theme.
No Jack Black, but no.
God, he's funny. Okay, speaking of comedians, this might be a good segue, if you don't mind. Good timing.
Segue.
Are you done? Segue.
Jack Black, and he's
freaking hilarious.
He is
hilarious.
He is, yeah.
I just saw Shelly on the drive showed me a video of him doing the song Peaches.
Yeah. From the President of the United States of America?
No, that's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought it would be. And it's his own song, and it's horrible. It's just horrible. And I don't even understand what he was doing. He's like being crazy, stupid Jack Black. And I freaking loved it. And that's why people love it, because Jack Black is just Jack Black. He's himself. Yeah. He does songs in his underwear and, full beard and full scruff. And he's just himself, doesn't give a shit. Yeah. Love it. And that's what I think a true comedian should always be. And
true to yourself, yeah.
This is what we're going to get into now, the creativity of comedy. And I'll be honest with you, Mark and I are from a different generation than Sean is. And the comedians from our generation didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
that's true.
Not one.
They didn't. Breaking the norm, being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Groundbreaking, and then
all those things.
And then like it was the start of the crafts. Like, I mean, the beginning of my childhood.
Controversial.
Controversial was like you were listening to Bill Cosby and now of course he was controversial later for a different reason, but
which is a different kind of funny.
Yeah, you were listening to Bill Cosby and his very, very clean comedy, and then we ended up with comedians like Richard Pryor. Started coming in, and then Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy, George Carlin, Andrew Dice Clay,
and Andrew Dice Clay. Yeah. The Dice Man cometh. Yeah.
So let's talk about that first.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I remember comedy being that slap you in the face, make you drop your jaw, like, holy shit, what did he just say? I remember going to a summer camp and they had the Eddie Murphy Delirious cassette, and everybody's passing this cassette around, listening to this one cassette. Like, oh my God, did you hear the Eddie Murphy thing? Oh my God, did you listen to did you hear what he said? He said, Norton, are you going to do what? Oh, like, are you kidding me? Right? Like, the things that he said were never said before. Yeah. And sure, there was backlash, and sure, there was people that fought the concept, but now it's a classic. Now it's known as classic comedy, but will never be done again.
No, it'll never be like everybody tries to imitate and duplicate, but it'll never be the same.
Can't be done again. The social norms have changed. Comedians get slapped in the face on the Oscars for saying something not even that hard.
Yeah.
Right. Now now the world has gone to a different place, and now comedians don't feel the safety that they used to feel. And I'm sure that that's a big part of it. I'd love to have Brian Bowden on this episode. He was our guest in our first season. Comedian.
He was good.
It's a disease. But no, like, I'd love to hear his opinion on it, because as a comedian, the world changed on that day. I guarantee it. I know my safety would be completely feeling different if I were a stand-up, which my mother-in-law told me I should actually do comedy once. She said two things that stick out in my mind. Once, I was being picked up in the hotel from the airport. They were driving me back to the house in Mississauga. And I was like imitating all these people that I had worked with, like Fred the chef, and like different accents and stuff. And she's like, Brian, you should really be a comedian. And the other time she called me a twit. I'll never forget that either. But those are the two things that Jerry really imparted on me in life. But I never was a comedian, and I certainly don't think I'm a twit. So she failed on both of those comments.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Got one over on you there.
My
No,
way.
it's amazing though. Like when
Absolutely.
you think about how comedy. Like I mean, George Carlin had his 7 words you can't say on television, right?
Yep.
See,
And
well thought out, start to finish.
yeah, it's great comedy, right? I mean, just the comedy stylings of George Carlin, and and like I say, Richard Pryor. Actually, I was looking at the notes. One of my favorites that didn't come up, and I don't so much remember a stand-up, but I remember the skits, and that was John Candy.
Mm.
For SCTV. And
My
Saturday
favorite TV series of all time.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
SCTV.
And local, for not me anymore, but I mean, he was Newmarket. I met him in Home Hardware, Newmarket, there on Davis Drive when I was a kid. So that was cool. Had his autograph. It should be in this drawer here somewhere, but I could never find it.
Everybody that says they ever met him always said positive things about him.
Oh yeah, he was a great fellow.
That's really cool. John Candy, man, those aren't pillows. Oh, I just love that. But okay, but to stay on that crass style of comedy style, I mean, we had Sam Kinison, we had some really, volatile comedians in the 80s and the 90s. But then as the world started to shift, comedy started to shift, and it started to change a lot. Are there any comedians that you guys can think of more modern that kind of stir your concept of a game-changing routine?
What's funny is there's one that sort of he's stayed that norm of shocking you with what he says, but he doesn't swear. Is Bo Burnham, and I think I know you know who he is, but he does like musical comedy and whatnot. He's very very creative, but he'll shock you with what he says, but he's sort of he's got the funny songs and whatnot, and that's sort of like a norm, right? You got guys crossing genres now where they're taking music and making it funny. Like even think about somebody like Jim Brewer, who does all of his jokes are about rock and roll and drinking and drugs and sex and whatnot. And he swears, but he's not as crass as say like Dice Clay was.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I got a bit of a soft spot for Dice Man because I named my cat Snapperhead. Like, have a Twinkie, snap ahead. I just thought he was hilarious. But to see him live, I mean, yeah, the comedy would not hold up at all. I mean, watching Ford Fairlane is one thing, but to see his stand-up routine, yeah, would not fly well these days, would it?
I would have killed for that. Honestly, I would have loved to have seen the Dice Man.
Oh, sure.
Live.
Live back in the day, absolutely, for sure. But to watch him today, I think you'd have to worry walking out of the auditorium for hecklers and people with guns trying to shoot you.
And now you've got like a lot of the guys that are on the circuit now, like with the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. You've got Larry the Cable Guy. You've got Jeff Foxworthy. I'm trying to think of the other fellow's name. It's escaping me right now, but Jeff Dunham with his
Jeff Dunham was good
with the ventriloquism. A lot of these guys I've seen live, but it's entertaining, right? And then there's another breed of entertainers we saw. Damn it, I can't remember the name. I can't remember her name. Comedian drag queen came through Thunder Bay, and just a riot, just amazing from beginning to end. The show was awesome. And her name I'll text you guys at 3 a.m. Her name was.
So what kind of comedy do each of you kind of gravitate to? Let me give you an example. For me, I love something with a different kind of wit, like Victor Borge. Way back in the day, Victor Borge was a musician, pianist, and he'd be basically giving a piano concert while talking and while being silly and while like fumbling with his chair, a little slapstick, a little bit of this and that, and kind of acting like a buffoon kind of style, but totally with it all the time, and super clever playing with the audience, but brilliant pianist. So there's talent, there's music, there's performance, there's funny gesture. I like that kind of comedy. I don't really find myself too attracted to like a Kevin Hart style, where it's just getting up there and just, You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter what you're saying, just that pitch, that tone of almost aggressive.
Yeah, he's got like a rapid fire style,
Right?
where he's just like firing joke after joke after joke, and it's like if a joke misses, you don't remember it because the next one hits, right? It's
Exactly.
Boom, boom, boom. There's no lags and there's no dip in the show, and he is all over the place. Like when you got a guy like Jeff Foxworthy on stage, he'll start with a story, and he starts telling the story, and he sort of builds up to the final punchline. But a guy like Kevin Hart, it's like a joke and a punchline. It's not like a story to it. Some of the comedians they like to, and like a Foxworthy style comedian, they like to do jokes about themselves and their families, and they're largely things that everybody can relate to. So they find it funny because they're like, "Oh my god!" And you even see it in the audience, like, "You did that."
Yeah.
So you know.
So that's the humor that hits personal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The humor, that everyday humor, that kind of thing. And then there's the humor of the musical talent and the style.
Yeah.
But then there's the absolutely crazy, silly humor.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a silly humor kind of comedian like Emo Phillips by chance? You remember Emo by any chance? He was on the TV show UHF, and he did stand up for I don't know. I used to see him on TV. He's called me Mr. Butterfingers. You know, this really kind of dopey approach and just silly vibe to him, almost like a Tiny Tim kind of a feel, but not. But do you guys have any comedians that you can think of that are just like wacky, silly that you enjoy?
I remember I used to watch a lot of my mom had this one VHS tape. It was Red Skelton.
Yeah.
I used to watch that on repeat. I would rewind it and then try and memorize the whole set. I can't do it anymore, but I used to be able to do it like word for word. It was fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah.
He was great.
I always loved it. Actually, it's part of the reason why Chris and I are married is Monty Python.
Yeah.
Because they did the silly, you know, how do you know she's a witch? Well, she turned me into a newt.
A newt? Well, I got better.
Like we were at the casino, and they've got the Monty Python Search for the Holy Grail.
Just a flesh wound.
Oh my
They
god!
got the slot machines, Monty Python and the Holy Grail slot machines, and as the videos are reeling, Chris are playing it. We're like reciting it. The next machine goes, "How many times have you guys seen this movie?" I'm like, "Well, about as many as I've seen Star Wars." So that's like.
That's true. I think I've watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail to a point where like I bought it on Blu-ray and I'm pretty sure the disc doesn't work anymore because I've played it so much.
Yeah.
Like it's so funny. Like when he's talking to the guy on the castle and he's like, "Are you suggesting coconuts migrate? They could be carried by what?
By sparrows.
by a bird. A 1 ounce bird carrying a 3 pound coconut. Can buy the husk."
Oh my god,
so good.
Yeah.
I was always partial to The Life of Brian just because obvious reasons. Yeah,
The
plus
fucking
it's the first time I saw like a woman's private parts in a show. That was
So-
game changing for me in life.
Was that piece of halibut was good enough for Jehovah?
So you guys have both seen The Life of Brian, right?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So remember that one the biggest dickus skit?
Yeah.
So that whole time, like that was unscripted. When he said that, like it was supposed to just like, kind of end, but like he heard one of the guys like break character. So they were all just actually standing there trying so hard not to laugh. And watching that scene, anytime I try and like tell anybody about Monty Python, that's like the one place I bring them to.
Another one for that was the Carol Burnett show.
Oh my
Yes,
god.
And Harvey Korman, and they
were always cracking each other up.
You could often see Tim Conway would go off, and everybody else is trying not to laugh, and they're failing miserably.
But that's like the best part of the show. I love that.
The one where he's talking about the elephant, he's like, he had his snow out. He's like,
and then when they sneeze, they're like,
okay, people, if you don't know who Carol Burnett and the Carol Burnett show is,
the dentist skit.
Oh my god!
Where he's
Get
like
it.
hitting himself with an Novocaine everywhere. Oh my god!
Oh.
Yeah,
So-
if you don't know Carol Burnett, if you don't know Monty Python, I mean,
Educate yourselves
yeah, you got to
very quickly.
you've got to try it, right?
But don't you think it takes a certain kind of person these days? I mean, some comedy doesn't age well, right?
Right.
And you kind of have to go back. And what we remember when we were kids being shocked for the first time by something, you watch it back, it doesn't necessarily hold the same weight. Yeah. Carol Burnett freaking kills. Yeah, it doesn't matter what she's talking about. Just as a human, she is hilarious. So yeah, the show, that was a big memory. Carol Burnett and the Muppets were my memories of the 70s and the 80s.
It's funny you say that because Chris is rewatching all the episodes of the Muppets right now on Disney Plus.
I used to remember having to come home from Beaver Scouts just to watch the Muppets.
The 70s, when the Muppets were on, was a very different time. And some of the things they make fun of in their videos it's not acceptable as comedy topics now. So at the beginning of every episode, this is on Disney Plus, they have a big disclaimer that comes up that times have changed. Some of the subject matter may be deemed offensive now. Please watch it with an open mind and what I don't know exactly.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, they've got this, but they haven't taken them off the air, but they've thrown a disclaimer on the beginning of it. So basically, if you're offended,
but that's the way it should be.
And it's funny because you talk about the creativity and Sean, you're the only one that actually has done like open mic stand up and had things. I mean, I used to do that. When they did the open mic night at the bar, you were 3 sheets to the wind. You'd get up and try and tell a joke, and it would just bomb. But you only got one joke, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But there's Richard Hammond from Top Gear. Yeah. He's got a new show. I think it ran 2 seasons, and it was called Crash Course. I think it was called. I had it up here, and I can't remember. Anyways, he basically Crash Course. Richard Hammond's Crash Course, and he does jobs. So he goes onto a job site and he has basically 2 days to learn the job, and then they test him afterwards. And one of the episodes, he is a New York City cab driver during the day and a stand-up comedian at night. So they give him like 3 or 4 days, but they give him coaching. He goes to like a stand-up comedian school where like you're in a club and they're all aspiring stand-up comedians, right? So, but then you have a chance to sort of pitch your material. And then they give you feedback on your material, and then they open it up, and then there's like the opening night. So he does this this one is I think it's a few days he does, and he makes about $30 being a cabbie and nothing making a comedian. But he talks about how difficult it is to write the material, right? Because like a lot of these guys, like when you think about any like the late night comedians, like whether they be a Johnny Carson or a Jay Leno, they all have a team of writers that write stuff. Whereas when you're starting a comedian, you write your own stuff, and you try it when you can, and it's definitely something where when a joke hits, it hits, and when it doesn't, sometimes it's just crickets out there, right?
And when it hits like Dave Chappelle, and the way his world hit after the Chappelle show, he and his co-writer,
funny,
were winging stuff and doing stuff they thought was funny, and then the world caught on and went nuts, and he was offered the world, and he basically just like, fuck you, world, peace out, get my head straight. I don't believe in all this what you're believing in. And Dave was a pretty strong dude to be able to pull back and pull the reins when the whole world was just like a whole bunch of horses pulling him along.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's that's another thing too. Comedy is not only great for us as viewers. I mean, I love watching comedians. We've laughed already just talking about some of the funny things we've seen comedy in the past, but it's so much more than that. It's mental health is such an important factor, and so many comedians do what they do because they're dealing with a lot of other pressures, I'm sure. Robin Williams, so many comedians have fought a battle that they obviously didn't win, or maybe they did, who knows, depending on your perspective, right? But it's pretty scary when you have somebody who's just bearing their soul and you hear what they're saying and you laugh and laugh and laugh, but really behind what they're saying, there's something else going on, and you gotta wonder sometimes, right? So how do you guys feel about that aspect of comedy? Have you ever watched a comedian that was pouring out truths to the point where you were just almost uncomfortable, wondering, is this guy okay?
Not necessarily. I mean, like when I did my my very few shows or whatever, for me, I was just my kind of comedy was like I tried writing jokes the first time, and then I did it in front of a bunch of people that I didn't know, and to me, it was harder to come up with material that I thought was funny and that other people thought was funny. But when it came down to doing like the backyard shows, it was a bunch of people that I knew and whatever else. But I basically just told a bunch of stories about my life that were, embarrassing or like, really fucked up for me to deal with. And for some odd reason, people love to laugh at some form of pain. Like you can't tell me that, watching a kid fall off a bike, you're not going to chuckle. Like you're going to chuckle, you're going to laugh because it's funny. Yeah. But then you're going to be like, is he okay? Why is his arm bent that way? We should probably drive him somewhere, preferably a hospital. But no, some, people love to laugh at pain, right? Like, it's how it works, right?
That's why Jackass was such a big franchise, right?
Yeah.
Because,
see, I was never into those things.
Yeah. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
See, you say that. My first thought was when I saw my little brother fall off a bike, and I almost pissed my pants because I was so worried for him.
Yeah, so I was more entertained by Nitro Circus than Jackass, but but it was the same. Like, hey, I wonder if we could build a ramp that would do and launch this, and they do it, and sometimes they get hurt, but it was sort of in the interest of the science and the physics, not just like, hey, can I suplex you off the second floor balcony and land on this picnic table and have us both walk away?
I do see that stuff quite often.
Yeah.
I saw some of that actually on Saturday.
Yeah, but the people that are doing yours are trained professionals.
True, they are.
They're not some kid in his mom's backyard thinking he can do what he saw.
So, all right. So we've talked about crazy comedy, which I haven't even talked about the real guy I wanted to talk about for crazy comedy, which is Jim Carrey. I mean,
oh, so good.
As far as I'm concerned, probably the best physical comedian of all time. Him, Jerry Lewis, Dick Van Dyke, whoever else you want to throw into the batch after that. But just his ability to just do everything he did was just amazing. His facial expressions, the tones and stuff like that. But then you look at him today and he's totally pulled himself out of the social eye. Mm-hmm. And he's probably one of the smartest people I've ever seen. He's basically made a video saying, I have enough. Yep. I'm happy. I don't need any more. So I'm done. Yep. I'm just going to live life.
And that's very good for him. Actually, the last thing I think he did, or one of the last things he did, was with Jerry Seinfeld, the comedians in cars
getting coffee.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
That was a great. I think he was the first one. Was that they were in the Lamborghini? I think, right?
I think so. Yeah.
But I think it was the first episode. But it was Jim Carrey, and it's how he looks today. He's got the big scraggly beard. He's just being himself and living his life, and that's it.
Yeah, just like the Jack Black I talked about earlier. So that's the point you want to get to in life, I think, in general, is you just want to be okay with yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and comedy is a good way of trying to get past that. One of the things I really appreciated what he said was, you can fail at what you don't want to do. Like you can go to school and do all the things for what you really don't want to do in life. Yeah. So you can still fail doing that. You can be fired. You can be let go. You can still fail, even though you're doing the things that you think you should do, but you don't want to do. So he says you can fail at doing what you don't want to do. So you might as well do what you love to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Brilliant. Yeah, that's true.
And then he's also says he's a member of the Church of Freedom from Concern, the Church of FFC. So he's freedom. He doesn't have to worry about it. He's free of concern. He's worrying about himself. He's worrying about his life. He's not worrying about all the way people handle what he says or any of those things.
No, exactly.
It's so important, especially as a comedian, because like I said at the beginning of the conversation, comedy is really steering away from people just saying things for the sake of being funny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's not the way it should be. So I really hope that people like Jim Carrey, are free-minded people, are still in comedy doing, these really great shows. I haven't been to a show. I have to admit, I'd like to. I want to see more. I usually watch it on TV. I still appreciate good comedy though.
There's a stand-up comedy show is it hits a little different, right? Because there's always a heckler. There's always somebody that wants to be part of the joke. And
that interplay.
Every time.
It's a lot like wrestling.
They want to make the laugh and the whole bit, and it's just amazing that people in the audience think that they're special enough that Howie Mandel is going to talk to me while I'm here, and Jeff Foxworthy is going to interact with me. I mean, if you sit close, then chances are you're going to get picked on. So you don't want to sit close, but I mean, they'll think there's an interaction, right? And if they keep chirping, sometimes it hits, and the comedian will fire back.
See, this is the thing that I enjoy, because now my comedy now is like, I understand that I understand that I'm a human. I get that I'm like, the farthest thing from, being on the cover of a magazine, like looks wise. Like I'm not, the sharpest looking guy, but
I disagree. Look at this guy.
This is from the backyard shows. I just sent these to Brian actually, because I forgot about these photos. Yeah. That's actually me and John. This was long before we had done Planet Pointless. Yeah. So this was the backyard show that I actually did. From what I heard, I did actually really well at. There's me standing up on the back porch of John's parents' place. Yeah. And then there's me telling my shit story.
Shit story, literally bent over doing your shit. Okay, I got you.
I'm dead serious, because again, I basically just talk shit about myself. Like I self-deprecate to a certain point, and people think that it's fucking hilarious. Like if you go back and listen to a lot of the episodes of Planet Pointless, like that's where I do most of my comedy now. Like it's a bit of a shtick where like I got to play stupid every now and then. But like playing stupid and then like, kind of like talking shit about myself while I'm listening to my own voice, it's like, to me, it's fucking hilarious. And then when other people listen, they're like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Like, is he okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I feel fantastic, but I'm having a laugh. If I can't laugh at myself, then what the fuck is the point of, doing comedy? Yeah. Like I like to be the butt of people's jokes every now and then. If I can clap back, I'll do it. But if not, I'll be like, well, fuck, you got me.
See, that's where it gets hard though, because especially when it's somebody that you care about, right? Like I care about you. And if I see posts that you're making about, or if I hear something on Planet Pointless where you start really getting hard on yourself or whatever, I'd shoot you a message, be like, hey man, are you okay? I heard this. You're like, yeah, I don't care, whatever. But, I mean, that's who you are. I'm learning that. You know what I mean? Like I'm starting to understand and learn more about who you are, but you don't know that about everybody. And you hear people making jokes and you genuinely start to be concerned sometimes with some of the things people say. But that's why I keep on in my brain going back to, this is so much like wrestling. It really is. Comedy is a lot like wrestling, in that you only see what they want you to see. Yeah. They're putting out a story that you have to digest and try and make sense of as they're telling it. They already know what they're telling you. They already know the answer to everything they're saying, but you're kind of piecing it together as you're hearing it for the first time, right? Mm-hmm. Same with wrestling. You can do really poorly. You can do really well. Same with wrestling. And some people like wrestling because it beats the shit out of them. Yeah. And they're able to, show their flaws, like Brendan. We've had him on a couple times. Mm-hmm. He's probably the most, if I think of a wrestler who is hard on himself or doesn't mind taking abuse or give it during a match, Brendan's one of the first guys I think of. Like he wears his heart on his sleeve when he's in the ring. And it's sometimes pretty amazing to watch, just like a good comedian, which is even funnier, the fact that he is also a stand-up comedian. Mm-hmm. So he has done stand-up quite a few times. I think he's done like 50 shows now. So, and again, that goes back to that link between these two forms of entertainment. They're both very, what am I trying to say, guys? Help me out here. They're both
there's a creativity
self-deprecating.
They can be. It depends on, it depends on what your storyline as a wrestler is and what your storyline as a comedian is. I think the comedians I enjoy the most, I do the same. I talk smack about myself to get a laugh. I do the same quite often because that's what gives people a laugh. But then, sometimes it's to make people feel better about themselves, right? Because that way they're like, oh, well, he seems to have it all together and he fucks up too. So, that makes me feel better about fucking up now and again. But and with the wrestling, you're putting yourself out there abuse wise, you're putting yourself in harm's way, right? Yeah, okay, you're gonna bounce off, and you're gonna, I'm gonna run into your outstretched arm, and I'm gonna flip, and I'm gonna land on, of course, I don't know how they're landing, but I'm guessing they're trying to land on their shoulders in some sort of a break fall, that they're not knocking the wind out of themselves and not breaking their neck. There's a risk to both. So there's
in stand-up comedy, you can be giving a perfectly good routine and then get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Yep.
So each one of them, and that was a real punch. That wasn't a pulled punch like in wrestling.
Yeah.
Mind you, a lot of wrestling isn't pulled anyway. Anywho, I digress. So one thing I want to ask you guys before we leave the show tonight, and I have a challenge to issue if everybody is cool with it. I'm going to do a challenge at the end. But the question I want to ask you guys is can you think of one routine that either left a lasting impression of you as a comedian, or just that one routine that when you think of a good comedy act, you just pull that out of your head? I've got one in my mind, and it's nobody we've even talked about tonight.
Shit, I'm trying to think now. Fuck, that's a good question. Motherfucker.
If you want to think on it for a few seconds, I can go into mine first.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I can't say me because I'm fucking garbage.
I have one as well, that we haven't actually talked about either. So, and it rings true because I'm from part of the era. I'm not as much of a gearhead as he is. I've only got 2 cars, not dozens. But Tim Allen. So Tim Allen, his comedy styling is like, obviously people know him from shows like Home Improvement and Last Man Standing, and the comedy there is different, right? Because they're set up sitcoms. But if you ever listen to his stand up where he talks about cars and he talks a lot about his wife and whatnot, he talks about his wife and how she blew the engine in my Cadillac, blew it up, ran it out of oil. So I said to her, "Didn't the oil light come on?" And she thought about it for a second and she went, yes. I'm not expecting the truth. I was shocked. How did you feel about that? And she says, well, I thought a brighter one should have come on when it really needed oil. And it's like, and he talks about, changing the radio station in the old, I forget what the car was, but I think about my old Buick, right? Where you're driving along, you're doing doing 120 kilometers an hour and you want to change the radio station, but it's way the fuck over there. So you got to because the cars were so big, right? And I had one of those. So
with the bench seats in the front.
Yeah, big bench seat and bench seat in the front, bench seat in the back. That was the perfect drive.
The whole front row moved up and back.
Anyways, yeah. So I think about Tim Allen, and a lot of what he says hits home because he jokes about cars and his life and his kids and stuff like that. And I can relate to all of it. I can relate to being a shithead like his kids were, and I can relate to having the car and blowing up a car. I've done it all. So there's more relatable there than anything.
That's fair.
Cool.
That's a good call.
Sean, have you thought of one?
Yeah, actually, just now. Another one we haven't talked about is Bill Burr. He's kind of like the one guy that I got into a few years back after I'd gotten out of doing stand-up for a while. And I just love how he's so angry. He seems like a bitter old man, but he's like young. He's like in his, I think, mid-40s right now, but he's incredibly funny. Talking about how the one routine that he did was he was talking about how he was he's like, you ever just you remember driving, you have your hand up here and you go, if I move my hand 2 degrees to the left, I'm on the cover of Newsweek. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, Bill, you want to come to the cookout? It'll be fun. And then fucking turns it over to the right. It's like one of the most horrific scenes we've seen this year. Yep. Body strewn about. Yep. He's like, sometimes you just think about doing the most fucked up shit, and you have to fight yourself not to do it. Yep. And to me, that shit's fucking hilarious because he's angry. B, he's actually making solid points, but they're funny.
Oh yeah.
So it's Bill Burr for me is like, he's one of my guys. Like I've watched like the Chappelle Show, like the Rick James skit he did with Charlie Murphy was brilliant. Fuck man. Like it's really hard to pick one routine that's like absolutely just, this is the best routine I've ever heard in my life. You know, so it's tough, but I'm definitely gonna go with that one because Bill Burr he's one of the goats.
For sure.
Awesome.
I am so torn. I mean, there's one that I'm going to save to give me my actual one, but the first time I saw Delirious, I mean,
So good.
the world changed. The world changed the first time I saw Delirious.
Right.
So that was special. But
So yeah, a lot changed in the world because of Delirious. So do you remember the Teddy Ruxpin doll?
yeah,
Okay, so picture a bunch of kids loose in Zellers, and one
Oh,
kid
yes.
grabs Delirious off the shelf, tears it open,
Oh no!
plug
Sticks it in Teddy's butt.
Plug it into Teddy Ruxpin on their display, hit play, and walk away. You got Teddy Ruxpin going, goody goo, motherfucker.
She's a Bigfoot, Gus.
Oh my God. I mean, still part of my vocabulary on a daily basis. I'd say 5% of my everyday vocabulary is from that one comedy routine.
Yeah.
But that's not the one that I would call as my favorite comedy routine. My favorite comedy routine is actually by a guy named Neil Brennan. He did a
Sounds
routine
good.
called Blocks. I've talked about this on a previous episode. I saw this thing on Netflix. I was trying to find it, trying to find the name of it, trying to find the comedian's name. Neil Brennan Blocks. It is one of the most well thought out routines I've ever seen, to the point where I'm going to do a screen share here. So his set is this scene behind him. And he starts off his show by saying, somebody made him, he told a friend of his the idea of his show and wanted, the friend to make these props for the show. And then the friend sent them all these props, but didn't know what order they should go in. So he's like, I don't know, I guess I'll just put them wherever. So he starts putting them on the wall. And the lighting is the way it is and whatever. And as he's going on with his conversation, he picks up the microphone. He says, oh, yeah, microphone. He starts going into a story about this and puts it back in a different place. And then he grabs the marijuana. Oh, yeah, this and this. And he puts it back in a different place. By the time he's done his show, the lights go down. And the way he's positioned everything is lit from the side. And the shadow on the other side of all these blocks creates an object. I'm not going to say what it is because I really encourage everybody to watch this routine. But it's funny, it's engaging, it's self-deprecating, deprecating,
I think so.
making fun of himself all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just like all of those lovely things about comedy that we love in a well-written, well-packaged routine, to the point where when it's all said and done, the shadow is exactly what it's supposed to be with these blocks being in the position. Then he just kind of pushes. You see the eyeglasses are a little bit to the left of that shelf that they're on. He just kind of slides it over to the right a little bit and it finishes the picture. Genius. Head to toe routine. Just freaking amazing. So that's the kind of comedy I like, where it's you're being entertained, you're sticking with it. He's not too sticking on any one topic that's offensive. He's not, he's just talking about life and himself and how he's dealing with things and how he is strange, but this is his comedy way of dealing with it. And love it. Neil Brennan, highly recommend it.
Right, we'll check it out. It looks like it's on Netflix. Right?
It was a Netflix special. Yeah, it's probably still there. I just
check
canceled
that
my
out.
Netflix, so fuck them. Not a fan of Netflix anymore. I haven't watched a thing on there since that, I think.
Actually, we've been watching a lot on Disney Plus. We've got Amazon Prime, but mostly it's Disney Plus right now.
I'm watching Tubi.
Nice.
I've been watching my favorite movies. I've watched Tank Girl. I've watched Half Baked. I've watched great movies. All these stoner movies. I don't know why I'm all just saying stoner movies, but
Heavy metal. Yeah.
I'm sure that's there. Yeah. Yeah, it's great stuff. And you watch 2 commercials through the entire movie and it's all free.
Nice.
We should be a sponsor for Tubi. We'll talk about that. Anyway, guys, is there anything else you wanted to add about the subject of comedy, Sean?
It's a tough thing to get into, and I have a lot of people tell me hey, you should get back into it. And I'm debating going back into doing stand up, but for now, I mean, just doing Planet Pointless is my opportunity for me to be as crazy and as fucked up and, you know, rude to myself as I can possibly get.
Yeah.
And people enjoy it. You know, people keep asking me like, when are you guys coming back? When's the hiatus done? I'm like, it's done when I fucking say it's done. When I'm ready, I will come back.
Yeah.
And I will come on the back. It will happen.
I
I get
All of
weird
those.
with it. I get weird with it. Trust me, Mark.
Yeah.
The more you listen, the worse it gets.
It's funny. Sean was in the store the other day, and he's like, "I don't know how much I can say on your podcast." It's like Planet Pointless. I can say everything, and it's great. It's like therapy. I'm like, oh, you can say that. Aurora and I, when you left, Aurora and I looked at each other like, he really doesn't get it, right? He can say whatever he wants to say. I mean,
you know what the great thing is you always gauge it to the guest. Right?
Yeah.
So if we have a guest, you're there, but it's sort of like Sean Light. And then when there's no guest, or when the guest is like Brendan, you fucking let it all go out.
I'm non-alcoholic Sean 90% of the time.
Love it.
Yeah, no, it's for me. I think, you know, rapping with John and having as much fun as we do over there on that show. It's like he knows how to keep me in check without saying too much. But like, there's other times where, like, again, like when I was at the store visiting you and Aurora, I wasn't trying to be a dick. I swear. I was just like, you know, I was like, it's hard for me to gauge how I'm supposed to chime in every now and then and like gauge my comedy to try and be funny, because I still want to try and be that guy who's getting a laugh. Right. But it's tough for me to kind of, you know, read the room a little bit. You know, I'm not super good. Like if I had a girlfriend right now and she was like, oh, like, do you notice anything different? I'd be like, you were in the house before and then now you left and then you came back. I don't know. What the hell did you do? Like, what the fuck? And then she's got to like fucking, you know, do the hair. Anyways, it's besides the fact. I don't know how to read the room, right? Whereas where me and John, it's a very fluid thing. So whenever we're hanging out, we're talking, it's literally, I know when I'm going too far, when he's just like, oh, okay.
He stops, he's like, wait, there's a line here somewhere. There was a line.
I'm gonna have to remember that trick, I guess.
Let's see it. The line.
It's funny. The more you listen to the show, though, it's basically how my comedy is now versus from where it was, you know, 5-6 years ago when I first started. So I don't know. I might get back into it. I might not. But for those people who are getting into it, I mean, dude, staple your balls to the wall. Go for it. Who cares? You know, and if nobody laughs, fuck it. You go back, you try again. I did not take my own advice. So I got to start practicing what I preach.
What exactly does that mean?
What?
Staple your balls to the wall. How does that help?
Balls to the wall. It's an expression. Put balls to the wall.
We got to look into that expression.
Yeah. But I said staple them because, like, if you're gonna keep doing it, just fucking, you know.
Oh, okay. All right.
What are those hammer staplers?
Balls to the wall
Nice.
Permanently.
Nice.
I'm slow. I'm old. That's what happens when you get old. I was never very quick. Doesn't matter. All right. Well, this has been fun. This has been a great conversation. I do have a challenge for our viewers and for ourselves, potentially.
Oh, boy.
Mark says, Mark. Why don't we try and create our own stand-up routine?
Way ahead of you.
Well, I know you are. But, I mean, for Mark, myself, Aurora, whoever's listening, think about it for a second. Plan out a comedy routine. Get a piece of paper, have a start, have a middle, have an end. You know, try and actually think of something that's funny. Whether you're working like Sean, where you're digging from life experience, and you know, trying to make yourself the brunt of the joke, I guess you could say, or whether you are building a different kind of story, a surreal world, like Woody Allen, where he talks about all these crazy things that he does and you can't think is possibly true. But of course, 60 years after that, find out it was all true. Or you never know. I mean, just think of a really interesting concept, write down your concept, write down your idea, and create an actual routine. 5 minute long. How long is a comedy routine?
Depends on the place. Like when I did stand up at the Fox Lounge in Barrie, which isn't there anymore, they'd probably give us about 5 minutes, and if you were kind of sucking ass like I did, they would give you the flashlight at the back of the room.
Really, you got the flashlight?
Yeah, like about 2 minutes in to each set. So
wow,
yeah, it wasn't that good.
It's all right. You were up there.
Didn't get the flashlight at the backyard shows. I got heckled by people who are bigger douchebags than I am.
and for that reason alone, we should all do this challenge, because I think in life we should all be heckled by bigger douchebags than we are. So that's my challenge to everybody. Mark, what do you think? You going to try it?
I don't know. It's tempting. It is really tempting.
It's not too hard to actually sit down and try and think of something. I'm not saying get up in front of a comedy club and do it a routine. I mean, if you are so bold, and if anybody does it, share your video with us and hashtag Expressions Podcast. So I'd love to see if anybody actually does this. But yeah, nonetheless, if you don't, have fun with it. Think of a funny theme. I'm going to try that actually as soon as I have enough time.
No, that was a horse.
Those aren't pillows.
It's already taken.
Damn it.
All right, guys. On that note, anything you'd like to say to close off the show, Mark?
No, I had a lot of fun, guys. I mean, I was off for a couple of weeks and now I'm back. So it was awesome. Looking forward to having some more fun. Glad you're back. Missed you, buddy.
Same.
Missed you guys. I mean, you got all these chats going on in our group chat, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, I feel so bad.
If you miss a couple episodes, the whole world changes, man.
Everything changed. Everything changed.
It's the whole world
gone. Sean, I spelled his name wrong one day because I didn't. It was just. I did. I spelled it SEAN, and I'm like, that's not. No, wait, no, and I typed it the right way.
How come that didn't pop up? The auto tag thing didn't even pop up. I don't know what's going on.
I think it was because you and I were talking. It wasn't in our group chat.
Oh.
Remember, you and I are trying to do that when we're awake at 3:30 in the morning.
Yes, we don't want to bother everybody.
Yeah, we want to.
Which Mark and I are the chatty two of the group, and then Sean's close third. Sean actually contributes.
Sometimes I get in there whenever I can. It's kind of like Tinder, you know. You kind of just get in there, and then once you're in, you're like, hold on to it.
It's Mark. I'm sorry.
I thought you were gonna say now that I'm in, it's like, oh, I gotta get out of here.
I was gonna say swipe left, but I don't know whether that's accept or reject. So
no, that's bad. Swipe left is bad.
Okay, I have no idea.
It's like, oh, it's Mark. Swipe left. Swipe left.
Mark and I are both old married men. We don't know what these things are.
Oh God.
All right.
All right. So hold on.
We need Aurora here. That's the problem.
Right? She sort of reels us in a little bit.
She does.
I gave her homework to do too. I wonder if she did it.
That's why she's not here, because she didn't do it. She felt guilty.
I saw a thing where there was a guy cab driver who was gay. And are you familiar? Have you heard of the app called Grindr?
Yeah.
Okay. So the cab driver has Grindr on his phone. And so he's driving through an area and Grindr gives him an alert and it makes whatever sound it is Grindr makes. And the lady in the back seat goes, "Oh, my husband plays that game." and the cab driver's like,
oh. And she's just being dropped off at home. Okay.
Exactly.
Happy husband.
No. Oh no.
On that note, thanks everybody for watching tonight. We really appreciate it. And
disappointment.
Give us some feedback of what you think of this fantastic episode. And please, Aurora, come back to us. We don't know where you are tonight, but you'll be back eventually. And when you are, we'll have a good show. Talk to you later. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Ooh.